should never have the person who's doing the bookkeeping have access to me.
Because very quickly they can take off with your cash and be able to hide it in your books. If you're feeling a little bit icky, I'll say, in terms of the path you're taking, it can go either way. Your numbers, you should know the tax rules, whatever it is, doesn't mean you should end up with somebody you're not happy.
I just want to say thank you to all the members of our community of the New Jersey Business Podcast. Thank you for the likes, the shares. Thank you for supporting this movement. I'm so happy to bring to you today the unconventional CFO, Lauren Furtado. She's doing a 3-part series, and it's so important. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, and you are perhaps concerned about your finances, if you're not happy with your current accountant, if you don't know where to start to get your books in order, you're going to get a ton of value from this series. Make sure you watch every single episode of it. What's shaking, New Jersey? Welcome to another episode of the New Jersey Business Podcast. This is the 3rd part of this 3-part series with Lauren Furtado, the unconventional CFO. Lauren, thank you so much for sticking with us for this 3-part series. You dropped so much knowledge so far. You haven't caught the first episode in this 3-part series. We talked about accounting essentials, understanding the roles, and overcoming the financial mindset hurdles. If that sounds like that is you have to go watch that first part. In the second part, we talked about the critical 4, the key metrics for business performance. So important as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you need to keep your finger in the pulse in order to make sure that you're staying profitable. And finally, today, we're going to talk about choosing the right accountant, essential questions for entrepreneurs. Lauren, once again, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate the time that you've taken out to share so much information and knowledge and value with all of us. You know, this is something close to my heart because oftentimes what I hear from entrepreneurs and business owners is that they feel a little mistreated by their accountant. They feel that they are told what to do, and I don't know what that comes from, but it is an understanding that the accountant is qualifying their client, but also the entrepreneur or business owner is qualifying the accountant, whether they want to hire them or work with them or not. So can you bring a little clarity into what that process should be like? What would be good questions to ask? Maybe empower our community, empower entrepreneurs and business owners to engage in those conversations.
We want to be empowered and motivated by our numbers, not discouraged, right? And stressed out. If we can eliminate that, then I think everybody will be on the right path. So I think it is truly evaluating, and I do this even whether it's vendors or customers of mine. So any professional that you're looking to engage in your business, value alignment for me is so huge, right? It is, are we going to communicate well? Am I going to trust this person with my financial information? Am I trusting this person to guide me in the right direction? We talked a little bit on the last, I don't know if it was the first or the second episode at this point, about intimidation, right, with your numbers. And it's truly like connecting with someone where you're not going to feel that way. There is a metric that approximately 20 hours is the amount of time entrepreneurs stress about or spend on their numbers. So even if we're not spending time digging into the books and looking at the transactions, because we all know that's not where the fun is, but like stressing about, am I going to make payroll this period, right? So like the time even that you're going to get back in connecting with someone that is going to add value to your business is, priceless, to be honest, right? So eliminating that stress and again, truly connecting with a professional who meets your needs that you can trust is the way to go. And if you have ended up with an accountant based on fear, based on feeling like, oh my God, like I just need someone to come in and fix this, I don't care who it is, it's not the right mindset, right? And it's, listen, this is your business. Feel empowered to find another vendor. If you had costs go up for, materials that you put into your jobs that you sell, like you might get bids from other clients, right? Like other vendors, and evaluate, like, is this the right one for me, right? So I think it's really, again, feeling empowered that just because it's the unknown and you're feeling like you should know your numbers, you should know the tax rules, whatever it is, doesn't mean you should end up with somebody you're not happy with.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Lauren. I guess my question would be that if we are qualifying a professional, but we don't really have knowledge, right, about the topic. In other words, for example, if I get a quote in my house for painting, I kind of know what, in addition to being a core value match, I kind of know what questions to ask. Maybe I'm going to ask questions like, okay, from what time to what time you guys generally work? Maybe I'll ask a question like, are all your employees background check?
Sure.
Maybe I'll ask, do you guys cover all the furniture, right? Those type of things. Like if you're sanding, are you going to make sure that you cover everything so my house doesn't get full of dust? So I know what questions to ask in order to qualify my potential contractor, the person who I'm hiring. But if I'm talking to an accountant, I don't really know the technical aspect of accounting. So I don't really know what questions to ask. And it may be that, say, the person is a core value match and I like them and I trust them, but I don't know more from that. What would you suggest that could be helpful to prepare for that conversation?
So first is you actually do know the questions because they're not that dissimilar to the ones you just asked that contractor. Okay. So we'll spin it so you can understand the accounting kind of equivalent of those questions you asked, right? Do you have experience doing this? Right? So tell me, in this industry, do you serve other clients like this? That's a big one. Number two, you might ask for a referral. Hey, can you give me 3 houses you've done before and can I contact the homeowner? Right? Same thing. Are you willing to share contact information for a current client that you have? Then I can talk to them about what the service has been. You also mentioned time and communication. Such a huge one, right? So let's say you're engaging a bookkeeper and it's, well, when can I look at my financial statements? When can I expect that my books are going to be done each month? So I know when I can carve out time to review what those look like, right? So when are you going to be working on it? What does the communication look like? For me, this is a big one because unfortunately, oftentimes I have heard from people not happy with the services they get from their accountants is lack of engagement. Oh, I sent them an email, I called them, I never heard back, right? Until it's like key time and things are on fire. So just understanding, are we meeting each month? Are we meeting bi-weekly? What does that look like? And what's the agenda going to be, right? So just understanding the communication as well as the deliverables. And like we talked about, the timing on those are very key. What else? You mentioned safety, right? So who are these people that are coming in my house? They're going to be sand all over the place. They're going to damage stuff. How are you keeping my information sensitive, right? I'm going to give you my banking information. I'm going to give you the financials of my business. You should never have the person who's doing the bookkeeping have access to make payments. I just want to make that very clear, right? Because very quickly they can take off with your cash and be able to hide it in your books. So just make sure you understand what preventative measures they're taking from an IT standpoint to keep your information secure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love the fact that you put in such plain terms, because if I'm thinking of categories, yes, I will feel comfortable having that type of conversation. But if I'm stuck in the technicalities, I will never be able to. I will have to go learn that before I go and have that conversation. Thank you so much, because again, the pain that I sense in many business owners and entrepreneurs when it comes to this, everybody knows it's necessary. Everybody knows it's important. And sometimes they are more focused on the production aspect, especially if they are hands-on, if they're a solopreneur. And sometimes they're very focused on the sell aspect, but they're not keeping track of it all. So that would lead into my the next set of questions that I have. So for someone who already has an accountant and they're realizing now, listening to you, they're like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on that I have no knowledge of.
Yep.
I don't even have phone calls with my we just talk once a year.
Yep.
They only call me and say, hey, do you have your receipts or when it's tax time or things of that nature. And so what would be some red flags, things that I need to keep an eye for and be like, whoa, this is not right. Maybe I should consider switching. Yep. And so that would be question one. And two is, how do you go about taking your information with you? If say things are not working and you want to then transition, what happens then? What should be given to you? That kind of stuff.
Sure. So I think I'm with it. You do not want the financial one night stand, right? That doesn't feel nice for anybody. And it's also when that happens, I feel like you're in a situation where you just have to get it done. You're willing also to pay a premium on, hey, just take my money and get my taxes done, right? So I think it's plan early. Plan early in the year as to one, who are you engaging? And it's making sure that, especially as it relates to tax, there's some element of planning in it as well, I would suggest. But in terms of red flags, I would say one is, like I mentioned, lack of responsiveness. Two is like your level of comfort with, and we'll talk tax specifically, even though it's not my favorite topic. If you're feeling a little bit icky, I'll say, in terms of the path you're taking, and it can go either way on like certain deductions. Do you feel like your accountant's a little bit aggressive in terms of asking you to put something on here that may not be accurate, right? Or are they guiding you in a way that feels more conservative, and you heard about all these opportunities you have to hire your kids and do an S Corp and all these crazy things that are now sensationalized on social media, but they haven't taken the time to explain to you why actually it might not make sense for you to do based on your business. So if you're feeling either way of like, hey, I think there's more we can do and maybe someone's not doing it. We just talked in the last episode a little bit of like accrual versus cash accounting. If you're feeling like your accountant hasn't explained that in a way that's meaningful and they're just taking the easy route, right? And you're not truly getting what you paid for, just like any other vendor, right? Go back to the drawing board. So I think those are the big ones. Understanding, I think the other piece with tax too is like, what support are you going to get during an audit? So making sure you're very clear on that, because candidly, like I even was audited personally from the state of New Jersey, 3 years ago, right? So, and given I'm an accountant and a CPA, and I actually do have someone else do my taxes, but like, what does that support look like, right? Because you don't want to be in that alone. It's scary when you get that letter from either the IRS or from the state, like, hey, I have to provide all this stuff, and do we have it, right? So just making sure you understand that as well is really key. So if you're looking to switch your accountants, right, I would say go back and look at your contract. If you do not have a contract with this person, right? And if you have a continuous bookkeeper, you likely should. And if you don't, maybe it's, hey, listen, I know we've had this working relationship for a while, but I actually want to put a contract in place just to make sure that they're not going to withhold your information. I would say if they're a professional that you've engaged, I would hope that they would be able to provide the information to someone new. Typically there's going to be a lead time, right? So what I've seen where we've taken over bookkeeping before has been, hey, give them 30 days notice. We're going to onboard during that time. And we actually have transitioned. We've talked to other accountants and they've said, oh yeah, actually, let me explain those journal entries we used to do every month, because there needs to be a little bit of communication between the two parties.
A while back, I had a situation where I had the administrator access to QuickBooks, and my business coach suggested at the time is like, well, create for the person who's doing your books, so your bookkeeper, just create a username, right? So, and give them like that bookkeeping access, but you have to maintain the administrative access, because at the end of the day, if you have someone else, you keep your books, right? And I remember I was looking for bookkeeping services, and I went to a few places where there would be an accountant who was a CPA who did taxes, and they also had bookkeepers working within their operation, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't accept that. They will only work in their system, and they would not accept to work in that way. Is that because it's unusual? Is it because not convenient to them? What would be the reason why they would frown on that? And what would be the reason my business coach suggested this?
Yeah, so different firms may have different preferences, and it's all about efficiency, to be totally candid, right? So I operate where I actually require my clients to be on QBO. I don't want them to be on other systems, and that actually has created situations where we've had to transition from a different system onto QBO in order for me to efficiently provide dashboards and reports. So you may have firms that just have a preference on, hey, we use this, and if you're willing to come on over, we can serve you. Whether or not it's a deal breaker is kind of up to them, but typically it's you train your people on one system, they know how to use it. There's a standard chart of accounts within that system, so everybody does it the same way. So it's an efficiency play of like, I can get through this quicker and I can serve more clients if it's all streamlined.
Right, that makes sense. Thank you. Appreciate you clarifying that. Anything else that you would like to add? I mean, this is the third part of this 3-part series, and I know we'll have you again. And I know our community would love to also learn about your story and learn more about what you do and who you are and who you serve. But is there anything that you want to emphasize in terms of the value you provided that you want to make sure that everybody has very clear?
Yeah, again, I think it's this concept of feeling empowered and motivated by your numbers, like truly getting an understanding of what they're trying to tell you to get you to your goals is where you want to be. And listen, when you do something like a cash flow forecast, which we talked about last episode, it's not a crystal ball. It's not always going to come true. It's not always going to happen the way you imagine, but you are going to feel so much more confident in the path that your business is taking. If you have the data, you have the financial backing that's going to drive you to get to where you want to be.
Awesome. Thank you, folks. There you have it. Lauren, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. God bless you all.
Hey, appreciate you listening to this episode of our 3-part series. If you are looking to work with a fractional CFO and you're a blue collar business who's making anywhere from $2 to $10 million in revenue, reach out to me. There's a form on my website. I really think I can add some value to growth-minded blue collar businesses.
A big thank you to our show sponsor, Keep My Office Clean. Thank you so much for supporting this movement. And also a shout out to NMAS Co-working located in Morristown for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the support.